Good morning. Good morning. We are going to have, occasionally, I do what I like to call little fireside chats. In fact, if it was up to me, we'd have a little bonfire going up and we'd make a circle and we'd sit around and have a talk. And so for the next 2 weeks, I wanted to share with you, I wanted to talk about some stuff that's been going on inside of my own soul as I do my own spiritual journey, just like we all do, right? And I think there's times when we're spoken to, and although we may have had a different plan and a different idea of what that was going to look like, things change, right? And all of a sudden I'm thinking like I prepared these talks, these titles well in advance, and all of a sudden something comes up and it goes, yeah, I think we're going in a different direction. And the next 2 weeks are going to be going in a different direction, just so you know. So the original title was called The Inner Game of Living. And where I was coming from with that thought or the title was this idea that, isn't it interesting how when we grow up and we get engaged in society and we get engaged with life, that everything out there is telling us to go, go, go and do and do and do. So we go out and we wind up, some of us go to school, we get these degrees, and then we come out of school and then we get these jobs and we focus on getting a house and getting a car and getting a 401k and a retirement plan, and we're spending our life, and we're taught that if we check all the boxes and we follow all the rules, that we're supposed to have a pretty good life. And if we just do that, it's going to work out that way. One problem: that's not the way it works. It's not. And so my observation has been in my own life and working with a lot of people is that while there's this outer thing that's going on, there's also this inner game that's going on. And my observation has been when we ignore that and we don't pay attention to it, it's going to get our attention. And I'm putting that nicely, right? Sometimes I call it the spiritual 2x4, right between the eyes. And all of a sudden, we've got to be paying attention. So many of you know that I'm in the process of completing the classes to enter into the ministerial program. And I'm on literally my last 2 classes. And as I was preparing for this talk, at the same time I started another class. And the class is called Self-Awareness. And by the way, I'm going to put just a short little plug in here because it's one of the things I've learned over the last year and a half since I've been taking these classes. Coming and spending a time here on Sunday morning is awesome. I love you guys, and I love spending time with you and sharing with you all the different things I'm going through in my life and your divinity and our divinity together. But there's a whole nother deeper, richer experience that's available online that has never been available before to people that really want to take their spiritual journey even deeper within some of the unity traditions and teachings. And so just understand that if you ever want to go and do a deep dive, and I don't care whether it's a deep dive in metaphysics, it's a deep dive in prayer, if it's a deep dive into the Bible, if it's a deep dive into whatever you want to do a deep dive into, those options are now available online through Unity. So I'm just sharing that with you. So I'm taking this class called Self-Awareness. And all of a sudden, in one of the required books, is a book by Gay Hendrick. Anybody know Gay Hendrick from the Hendricks Institute? He's been a psychologist, therapist. With him and his wife created the Hendricks Institute and have been doing some amazing work for a really long time. They've published over 40 books and have traveled all over the world and have touched thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. And so the book that we're going to talk about, as I started getting ready for this, I started going through this book, and I was like, I think I just want to talk about this book because it's so amazing. And so we're just going to spend a few moments on some of the incredible lessons within this book over the next couple of weeks, and I hope you really enjoy it. So when we dive into the book and we start looking at the book, it's interesting. He starts off with a really simple statement. He says, to make the most of our gift of life, this tremendous gift that we have, you and I must answer 2 great questions in our short time on earth. Those questions are, How do I live at peace with myself? First question, number one. Second question, how do I live in harmony with the people around me? I thought that was those are such interesting questions. I'm always looking for a spiritual slant or a spiritual view on everything. And when I pose those two questions, I'm like, wow, that is really, really fascinating. And he goes on to say, to answer these questions, we must find out who we are at our core. We've got to know ourselves at the core of our being in order to answer those questions. We must find out how to recognize the core selves of others. So in other words, the people that we care about, the people that we love, the people that we embrace and we do this incredible thing called life with, it's important that we must also find the core selves of others. He goes on to say, the questions are urgent and always have been. If we do not find peace within ourselves, nothing we accomplish will feel satisfying. Nothing. Doesn't matter how big the car is, how big the house is, how big the bank account is. Doesn't matter. If we can't find that within ourselves, we have nothing. Nothing. If we do not live in harmony with the other people, we miss out on the very essence of life, which is feeling the glow of love as it is given and received with open hand and open heart. And then he says, conscious living begins with each of us when we commit to full engagement with these immense tasks. Full engagement. Not occasionally, I might read a daily word, or occasionally, I might sit down and kind of look at things. Full commitment. Full commitment. I believe that all of us, he says, are seeking the same thing in life. I believe that too, by the way. Whether we know it or not, we are all on a journey. We have been going on pilgrimages to therapy, to church, and to meditation retreats for thousands of years, seeking a richer flow of happiness and love. And then he says, conscious living is not just a philosophy, it is a living, organic source of wisdom you can feel in your body, understand in your mind, and apply every moment of your life. Every moment. When we decide to become conscious, when we decide to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to look at this thing inside of myself and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out this amazing puzzle that's called me. That's what I'm going to do. And we decide to give ourselves the greatest gift that we could ever give ourselves, which is to understand what's going on and who is this person called me. And you know the sad truth is, so many people don't take that journey. They get too caught up in life. They get too caught up in being busy. They get too caught up in what we're told is supposed to be normal, which is everything else, about everybody else. We learn about everything else, but we don't take the simple time of getting to know and learn who we are. We don't do that. He goes on to share a few more thoughts about conscious living. Conscious living is about how life actually works. It's not a set of beliefs or a faith. Think of it as you would think of the Colorado River, a direct expression of the laws of nature. You don't have to believe in the river or its creation, the Grand Canyon. It requires no faith, and you can experience it intimately by following the path created originally by a simple stream. If you come to the journey of conscious living with sincerity, an open heart, you will eventually assemble a set of practices that you can use to embrace every moment of your life. Every moment of your life. If you decide to start living consciously. Conscious living gives you a somatic technology. What does that mean? It means that you can feel it. You take it inside of your body. Your body is telling you all the time what's going on inside of you. If you pay attention and get out of your head, your body will tell you where you're at. It's one of the greatest gifts that we've been given is this body. If we pay attention to it. If we'll slow down enough to hear what it's trying to tell us. And it is always, always, always trying to tell us something. Because that's the way that it works. So, what about this thing called conscious living? How do we do it? What do we do with this thing? So in the book, there are actually 5 required lessons that he talks about for conscious living. And we're going to talk about a few of them. Now, I've split the book up because the first 3 are about and here, and then the next 2, which are going to be next week, we're going to talk about the stuff outside here and how we can play with that. Fair enough? Good. Lesson number 1 may come as a big surprise. I know it's something I've struggled with my entire life. I'm getting much better at it in the last 5 years of my life, but I can tell you for the first 50 years of my life, not so much. What is it? Feel all of your feelings deeply. Feel them. You're not going to blow away. You're not going to blow up. You're not. Feel your feelings deeply. The first thing that he says is so critically important. Always and in every moment, embrace what is real inside of yourself and focus on what is real outside of yourself. Embrace all of your feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, and realize that all of them occur in the larger space of your essence, which is who you truly are. Experience all of them and realize that they all occur in a larger space. So to me, it says that we're actually more than what our feelings are. But we don't understand that, and we hide from them, or we deny them. And that's what happens. He goes on to say, your feelings have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and none is more important than the other. So when I read that, what it makes me think about is I was up north next week, and I was standing on the shores of Lake Michigan, and the wind was blowing, and the waves were huge. And as we stood there and watched the waves, they were intense for a while, and then all of a sudden, the wind started slowing down. It started getting quiet, and eventually it became calm again. And then guess what? Started up all over again, right? There was no judgment there. There was just simply me being able to be an observer and not judging the size of the waves or how big they were or anything else like that. They were simply waves that came and went. The same thing with emotions. There's no beginning. Well, there is a beginning, there's a middle, and then there's an end, right? Your essence is who you truly are, beneath all of your feelings, and if all of your life experience had been different. Through your essence, you are connected to the same space that everything in the universe rests in. I'm going to say that again. Connected to the same space that everything in the universe rests in. Everything. You, me, and everybody else. And everything. We all rest in the same space. I love this. When you let your feelings be free to come and go, when you stop resisting them or clinging to them, you rest in your permanent home, a clear and unwavering perspective from which to take actions that benefit yourselves and others. And what's the key of that whole statement? You don't resist them and you don't cling to them. You just let them be and observe them. But wait a minute, Mike, I don't understand that. Yeah, I know, either did I. At all. I never knew how to express my feelings. I never knew how to feel them, more importantly. And so what happens is we've got these feelings that are going on, and we're taught that they're wrong. We're taught that we shouldn't be having them, and we're certainly taught, especially at a young age, that we should never express them, at least in my family, in my home environment. And so what happens? You grow up as an adult, and you don't think it's okay to express your feelings, and you don't think it's good. Or you're taught that certain emotions are okay to express. I can be happy, but if I'm upset, can't do that. And what happens is then all of a sudden, as we stop the flow and those energies that come up inside of ourselves, instead of coming out of us and would leave naturally, they get stuck. And they sit there. And guess what? They are going to sit there until they are dealt with. That's how we work. We live in these energetic bodies, and these energetic bodies that we have, because that's what we are, we're all energy. What happens is these thoughts, these emotions, these feelings are just running through us until we judge them or we don't let them come out. And then they get stuck. And then they sit there. And then all of a sudden, we're living our life one day, hanging out, and something happens, and guess what? Bam! We get triggered. And now all of a sudden, the stuff starts coming up again, which is another opportunity for us to heal, but we ignore it. We ignore it. And we just think, whatever, I just blew off some steam. No big deal. When the truth is, in that moment, if you could just be there with that feeling, whatever it is, and just let it come through it, don't judge it, observe it, love yourself, have compassion for yourself, understand this is a natural part of being a human being, it's not right, it's not wrong, then guess what happens? The emotion flows through you, the energy was released, and then we get on with our day. That's it. It's not that terribly difficult, but we have a tendency to complicate things. Feel your feelings deeply. He goes on to say about feelings, the same thing turned out to be true with my feelings and thoughts. When I identified with certain feelings, I am angry, I am sad, I am happy, I am mad. So in other words, you're identifying, you are saying, I am this emotion. You are not your emotions. You have emotions, but you are not your emotions. When I identified with certain feelings, for me it was usually anger. I was trapped within because I either made it right or I made it wrong. It's okay to be happy. It's not okay for me to be sad. That is not okay. Right? Goes on to say, if I made it right, I was trapped inside the false notion that someone else had caused my anger. If I made it wrong, I hid it and tried to shame it into submission. So in the first category, I'm looking outside of myself and I'm blaming everybody else for the situation. That person made me angry. How dare them? Yeah, right. And the second thing you did what? You shame yourself. How many people have got really, really mad, upset, and then all of a sudden, a half hour after you calm down, go, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. We've all done that, haven't we? Right. We do that because that's the way that we do it. Neither position worked very well. I could flip-flop back and forth all day, making my feelings either right or wrong. They would still be there when I went to bed. The only freedom came from shifting my identity to the space that contained all my feelings. Did you hear that? The only thing that gave him freedom was the understanding that came from shifting his identity. I'm not anger, I'm not happy, I'm not sad, I'm actually more than that. I actually can contain all of it. I'm all of those things, but I'm not that specific emotion. When I shifted my identity to the space that contained all those things. Kind of sounds like your soul. Kind of sounds like your divinity. Kind of sounds like what we talk about here a lot, right? At Unity. He goes on to say that all my thoughts and all my opinions, all my precious points of view, those two were traps. when I identified with them. He goes on to say, if I made any point of view right or wrong, I glued into place and decreased my freedom. Wait a minute. If I made any point of view right or wrong, I glued into place and decreased my freedom. I had to think about that for a minute. And I thought, hey, Mike, you got any points of view that you're really, really strong about that's keeping you glued and decreasing your freedom? And then I thought about it on a big picture. What's going on today with the television and politics? And I thought, wow, holy cow, that's a good one to look at. So we hold on to these points of view, and when we do, we become extremely rigid. And we can't see anybody else's point of view. And I just think that's so relevant, what's going on right now. If we could just lighten up, if we could just loosen a little bit, there may be an opportunity just to see things a little bit differently. And so he goes on to say, the second lesson is seek your true self. Seek your true self. He talks about get your priorities straight. Focus first on who you are, and then let your actions flow from this place of deep self-knowledge, which then leads to the question, really simple question, do you know who you are? Do you know who you are? Do you know what makes you happy? Do you know what makes you sad? Do you know what you need to do when you're having a bad day to take care of yourself? Do you like being outside in nature? Do you like spending time in prayer or meditation? Do you like having conversations with some people and not with other people? The questions are simple. Focus on you and figure out who and what you are. We are all different. We're all going to do things a little bit different. That's how this works. That's how this game is. We're all wired a little bit differently. So it's a simple question, but the answer I find when I really start asking people questions, they kind of look at me when I start rattling off all these questions, one after another, after another, after another, after another, and you can tell in terms of self-exploration, there just hasn't been very much done. So get your priorities straight. I love he goes on to say, your inner life must be fed and nurtured as much as your physical body. So again, here's the question. Are you feeding and nourishing your inner life? There's no judgment here. I'm not here to say right, wrong, or indifferent. But if we talk about living a conscious life, which we do here, and we talk about being present and aware and powerful and having life experiences where we can actually change things, we can actually be a part of this conversation of life. Are we doing it? In order to do it, you must feed and nourish your inner life. Number one. So then the question is, well, what does that look like for you? Can you answer that question? I think sometimes I say yeah, and I think sometimes I say no. But I've been doing it for quite a long time, so I have a pretty good idea for me personally what it means to nurture my inner life. But it starts with the first priority, which is love yourself enough, care for yourself enough to take care of yourself, to take care of your inner life, and then figure out what that means for you. And everybody's list is going to be a little bit different than everybody else's list. It's okay. But what I would encourage you and what he's saying is make it a priority. Make sure that that's what you're doing. You're taking care of yourself. If you put the highest priority on your inner life, your outer life will thrive. Why? Because it is rooted in a sustainable and self-nourishing base. So let me get this right. I need to make myself a high priority. How many people were taught to make yourself a high priority when you were growing up as a kid? I wasn't. I wish I could sit here and tell you that, but that was not my reality at all. In fact, I was taught it was actually considered selfish to do that. That's the environment that I was brought up in, right? And so there was this ongoing thing where it's like, no, I can't slow down enough. I can't take the time. I can't get to know this human being called Mike. I can't figure out what makes him tick, what makes him happy, what makes him sad. And the last thing I could do was actually spend time, which is the craziest thing of all. Think about it. We don't even take the time to make ourselves that important. We're never taught that lesson, that we are so worthy of the time and the attention that we give ourselves that can make such a huge difference in our lives. And yet, so many people go running around. They go run over here, and they do a little bit of this, and then they run over here, and they do a little bit of that, and then they run over here, and they do a little bit of that. And they do everything except slow down and love themselves enough to figure out what's going on in here where they could actually heal and then move forward. They won't even do it. They don't. The third, actually it's the fifth, but I told you I was going to kind of do things a little bit out of order. The fifth lesson: life is fullest when we're most true to ourselves. Again, life is fullest when we're most true to ourselves. If you express what needs to be expressed within you, you'll be happy and fulfilled. If you don't, you won't. I'm going to read this again because I want you to feel this. If you express what needs to be expressed within you, notice what it's not saying. It doesn't say only if it's nice, only if it makes people happy. It doesn't say that. It says you express what is inside of you. So many people are walking around with something inside of them that they want to say, and they don't say it because they think that, God forbid, if they were to say it, look out. And so what they do is they wind up holding inside of themselves something that causes all kinds of problems, whether they're emotional problems, physical problems, all these things, because they have these little things going on. And in some cases, it's as simple and easy as sitting down with somebody and having a conversation and just being real. That's all it takes in some cases. Some cases, it might be something inside of your heart and soul that you just want to express, that you just want to share. Mark's a beautiful example of that. He shares his gift. The singers from the Unitones, they share their gift. I'm up here. To me, this feels like my expression. That's what I feel like I'm here to do, is to share that expression. Every single one of us have an expression that needs to come out. And that's what this one is saying. Let that expression come out, even when sometimes it's not pretty and we're having a bad day. Sometimes we just want to put a bow on it, or we just want to go to bed and we just want to ignore it, even though in our heart and soul we know that we need to say something. It needs to come out, and yet we don't do it. We don't do it. And then what happens? It gets stuck. Going back to the beginning, it gets stuck. It doesn't come out. It sits there and sits there and sits there until it either gets tapped on the shoulder again, the energy shows up, and then we ignore it again. How many people got stuck in those loops? We all do. Guilty as charged, right? Yeah. Yep. So, I'm going to do something with you now where we're going to do a little bit of a meditation. And I'm going to get you all relaxed, and what I'm going to do is just have you I'm going to ask you some questions, and I just want you to feel the questions as we go through them. If you want to leave your eyes open, you can, but if not, you can close your eyes and feel the questions. Mark? So we just want to relax, close our eyes, and I'm going to have you take 3 deep breaths in. Deep breath in. Hold it, and blow it out. Take a deep breath in. Hold it, and blow it out. We're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to hold it, and we're going to blow it out. Just slow down your mind. The thought is to come into the presence of yourself, into the presence of this moment. Let everything go. And I just want you to imagine yourself getting just comfortable and relaxed. And we're just going to go on a little journey together, where we're just going to ask some questions, and I just want you to feel, as we go through these questions, what happens. What's happening inside of you? Be compassionate. Don't judge. Just let the feelings do what the feelings need to do. And see which ones, observe which ones get your attention the most. Ask yourself the question, do I know who I'm at? Do I know who I am at my core? Do I really know myself? Do I know others, the people that I love, the people that are in my life, the people I care about? Do I know who they are at their core? Remember, be gentle, but be honest with yourself. Don't hide from these answers. Are you fully engaged? Am I fully engaged and committed to figuring these things out? Am I? Am I not? Do I really feel all of my feelings? Do I give myself permission to feel all the feelings? Do I let them come and go? Am I able to become an observer of the feelings that come and go? Or do I get caught up in them? Do I identify with certain feelings? When it comes to my point of view, do I have some that are rigid, that are keeping me stuck, glued into place with no room for movement? Do I spend time really trying to seek my true self? Really trying to understand who and what I am, what I love, what I don't love, what makes me tick, what throws me off kilter? Do I really spend time doing those things? Am I nurturing my inner life and making it a top priority? Do I do that? Or is there room? Do I express what needs to be expressed fully? Good and bad. I just want you to be there for a minute, compassionately, willing to look at these questions. And if there was anything in there for you, if there was any gifts for you, consider it a little tap on the shoulder, a little opportunity for you to go deeper into yourself. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to fear, nothing. All there is this beautiful space called you, where there is peace, where there is beauty, where there is your divinity, where there is you. And when you're ready, slowly start to come back into this time here and now. Wiggle your toes, open your eyes, and come back. Well, the good news is you're all here. I didn't lose anybody. I hope everybody out there is still there. How was that? Cool. Awesome. Did you learn anything? Some awarenesses maybe you didn't have before? Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? It's just a deeper exploration into who and what you are. I think sometimes we're afraid of what's inside of ourselves, that we're really afraid to unpeel all the onions, the layers of the onions, because we think there's something that's inside of us that's so scary, and the truth is it's not. Deep at your core, your love, that's what we all are, is love. And yet we've got these things that we've been programmed to believe about ourselves and about the process of going within that just, in some cases, scares us. I know it did for me for a while, right? So let's just do a recap for this week. And again, next week we're going to do the next two because there's a total of 5. So feel all your feelings deeply. Feel them. Seek your true self, who and what you really are. And remember that life is the most fullest when we are most true to ourselves. So when we live that pure expression of who and what we are. So when people fully understand, wow, do I understand this person? Wow, do I get it? Wow, do I see you showing up? Being as real and authentic is the word that comes to my mind. There's this authentic person that you are. Let us see it. Forget the masks. Forget the way that we're supposed to show up. Why don't we just be us? And let the chips fall where they may. I can say this for myself, that there's been times in my life where I'm just afraid to show up and just be fully who and what I am. And as I get older, I'm realizing, you know what? If you don't want to be around me, God bless you. And there's no disrespect or anything. It just means like, look, I just want to be who I am, fully. Because the more I can show up as me, authentically Mike, what I notice is that I get to have a lot more authentic people show up in my life. And you know what I'm loving? Authenticity. That's what I love. I love people that are authentically themselves. It's such a gift to yourself, but it's also a gift to others. Every single one of you are so beautiful inside. That part of you that is uniquely you, that expression of the divine that's called you. How freaking awesome is that? And yet some of us has been taught that to show up fully authentically ourselves, uh-oh. And what I'm here to hopefully encourage you to do is to show up authentically you. Just be you. That expression that's called you, that piece of the divine that came through with your name on it is such an amazing gift to all of us. And yet we don't get that. Because why? Shame, guilt, all this garbage that we've piled on top of ourselves. And yet when we start taking off the piles of stuff on ourselves, what happens is your inner beauty, that inner light starts to glow, become brighter and brighter and brighter. And you are the most amazing miracle that we could have ever have been gifted. And I know that I personally feel that with each and every one of you. You are a tremendous gift in my life. I cannot possibly thank you enough for what you've done for my life. And I mean that on a soul level. Thank you for being who and what you are. Authentically, an amazing piece of this thing called the divine. I'm so incredibly grateful and hope you have an absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you.